no sienten mi pena. Nadie nos dará gobierno, majestad. La necesidad ajenas no sienten mi pena. Allá donde no había, no solicito permiso para la vida. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Le daré vista hasta el más ciego. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí, estoy aquí. Y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí, estoy aquí. Estoy aquí, estoy aquí. Yo veré, no me encierro. Estoy aquí, estoy aquí. Conocí, siempre hay manera. No más necesito un terrenito, una parcela. Hay bastantes, sobran ejidos robados y prestados. El vivo sigue de pie, no como el muerto acostado. Ay, esas cumbres, cómo brillan, llamando la atención. A través del mundo aumentan los hogares de la mina y carbón. Allá donde no había, no solicito permiso para la vida. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Le daré vista hasta el más ciego. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí, estoy aquí. Y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí, estoy aquí. Estoy aquí. Yo veré, no me encierro. Estoy aquí, estoy aquí. Ay, esta cansosa día. Estoy aquí. Llevarnos fuerte la ansia. Estoy aquí. Cada vez que lleve la vida, bajo un sudor mexicano. Over mountains, over cerros, over desert valleys, from the ranchos to the towns to the city alleys. Coming ones, coming twos, Texas, skip to Cali. People walking, running, crawling, quarter tallies. Men, boys, women, girls, young, old, skinny, fatty. Hold their elders, hold their hopes, hold their little babies. No food, no means, no way to have it. Run, stumble, fall, get back up and at it. Yeah, make the plan, pay the man, truck it, walk it, run it. Under moon, under radar, make the dash and gun it. Touching down, get to town, washing, working, mowing. Taking heat, filling needs, sending line unknowing that you need. Feel like greed, past and present sowing. Other ties, US lies, going, telling, throwing. The more they come, build, challenge, sets of law and knowing what is seen, what it's moving, there is no destroying. And sacred turn a miracle. New peregrinadas, the oracle said miracle, yeah. History at its pinnacle, yeah. The oracle said miracle, yeah. Dreaming is the pinnacle, yeah. And if you've heard this story, you know more pain than glory. And if you've heard this story, you know more pain than glory. Oh, yellow people.
Soaring through the sky. Bright light of day, easy night. The city sways deep into night. No moment gone, there is no rest. As people live to win. for a dawn. You have a balance and then it's gone. Whatever your belief, God, Spirit, Jehovah.
Welcome to Trek Table, your Sunday weekly podcast holding Trek space for
Black, Indigenous, Brown,
women of color,
queer or otherwise,
and our allies. Hey, I'm your host, Allison Ordela, and today I am holding Trek space for folks like Michael Burnham who are trying to support their found family right now as you deal with something unexpected that was thrown at you.
Hi, I'm your co-host Maya Mama, and today I'm holding Trek space for storytellers and those that keep our stories.
Hi, I'm your guest co-host Lutfi Minda Jariwala, and I'm holding Trek space for all of those realizing their power and claiming it for themselves and for their people.
hi, I am your guest host, co-host, Rose Portillo, and I am holding Trek space for those who are trying to figure out how they're going to leave the space they're in.
Welcome everyone to the Trek Table. Thank you, co-hosts assembled today for that opening. Before we go any further, we just want to start as a team to acknowledge that both our team and our digital equipment for both Trek Table and Outside In Theater are on the unceded lands of the Tongva, the Chumash, the Quiche, the Puyallup, the Pawtuck, and the Massachusetts and Ohlone peoples. We are grateful to the Indigenous stewards of these lands, the ancestors who have come before, and those who are here now. Can I invite you, if you're a listener or a viewer, to be in acknowledgement of the lands that you are on as well? Let's go ahead and take a breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us today for this as we hold Trek space for women of color here in front of our live digital audience on Outside In's YouTube channel, as well as to those of you who are listening on our podcast archive or on our Trek Table video archives. We always start the show with who or what we are holding Trek space for, so we invite those of you who are joining us in the chat to think about and reflect and let us know who or what are you holding Trek space for. We realize it's going to take a second, so we're just going to, as a group, go ahead and let the chat settle and go ahead and just take a breath for all the things that they are holding Trek space for. So table assembled, can I ask you to do one more breath with me? Let's go ahead, take a breath in and out. Wonderful, and thank you.
Our opening track for this episode is titled Chicana Skies by the band Quetzal, off their album Quetzal. You'll be hearing several tracks by Quetzal throughout this episode of Trek Table. Follow them at Quetzal Music on Instagram and see our show notes or the chat for a link to their merchandise and more.
Yes, and we want to welcome everybody one last time to episode 21 of the Trek Table. I am your host and show creator, Allison Ordela. I'm so excited that you all are here. We have an amazing episode lined up for you today. We're going to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 4, and Obol for Charon or Charon, however you want to say it. We're going to explore, what is the process and practice of preparing for death? How do you pass on your legacy? And we also want to explore all of the found family bonds that were strengthened in this week's episode of Discovery. Now, if you're a follower of the Trek Table newsletter, you also saw that our subject line this week was, is Tilly a Ouija board? Is Burnham a death doula? And what about that Star Trek exorcism? We're so glad that you could join us today for this BIWOC BIWOC Trek conversation. Hello and welcome. We want to build with you. So we always ask folks as you enter this conversation, how do you enter as a Star Trek fan? Are you Star Trek curious? Are you a newbie? Are you a canon head? Trekkie, OG Trekkie, all the things. How do you identify? Maybe Star Trek fan, Star Trek zaddy, I don't even know. Let us know in the chat. Awesome. And we are back today with episode 21 of the Trek Table. We're going to look at this Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 4 episode in a couple of different ways. We're going to play popcorn recap today. Luz Vaminda is going to join us for the first time in the popcorn recap. I've got the Trek Table questions because Claudia's not here. Marie's not here either, but we still have Marie Has Questions. Only this week, it's the Rose Portillo edition. Discovery Designs coming at us with Maya Mama. We're going to braid it all together in thematics, and spoiler zone today is going to be fun because we're going to talk a little bit about the short treks connected to this episode of Disco as well. Like always, we've got signal boosts, final thoughts, and we always end in gratitude.
We honor that people may be on their own journey in viewing Star Trek Discovery. So during the bulk of the show, we will only discuss things that we can remember have been unveiled up through Season 2, Episode 4 of Star Trek Discovery. For other insights, join us in the spoiler zone.
Yes, and I just want to say thanks to everybody who's joining us live or on the archive from last week's episode 20. We were at the Women at Warp Festival, Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations Podcast Fest. I just want to say thanks to Women at Warp. What's up, Sue? You did so amazing for us and behind the scenes. And I also just want to say thanks and love and appreciation to our co-hosts on that show, Claudia Alec, Maya Chinchilla, and Marie Ren Velez, giving us a jam-packed episode. So I just want to say thanks. They're not here today. We're going to get a chance to see them in the coming weeks, so super excited about that. But enjoy the Sunday off, and we'll see you soon, yeah? I do want to say, though, I'm excited to welcome this particular table today to assemble. And this is the table that's going to keep us from spoiling all the things about Star Trek Discovery today. Welcome to the table, our Star Trek... I'm so excited, I'm like falling over my words. Welcome to this Trek Table assembled for episode 21. Maya Mills-Lowe, Luz Vaminda Jariwala, and Rose Portillo. So excited to have you all here. So let's just keep continuing this practice that we have and ask you to do a check-in, share your name, your pronouns, a visual description, any access check-in, and finally, that last question we asked before the musical break, how do you enter as a Star Trek fan? Maya Mama, can I invite you to go first?
Yeah, I'm Maya Mama. She, her, hers are my pronouns. Access check-in. I am being healthy and taking care of myself, but my medication might make me a little sleepy, but I'm pushing that energy up. I am a young-looking, middle-aged black woman with fun pink and black makeup on, and I identify as a Star Trek generational and poly sci-fi.
Yes, loving all the words. What's up to all our friends in the chat? Claudia's actually in the chat. What's up, Claudia? Thanks, Ariana, Isil, Lisly, Gaia. So great to see you. Jess Queen, all the friends, all the fam. Thanks for being here today. It's my great pleasure to bridge that and see who else is on this table with Maya Mama. I want to introduce Luz Vaminda Jariwala. She is my sibling in our executive producer roles here at the Trek Table. What's up, Luzvi? Super excited you're here on this side of the microphone, this side of the cameras. And just to say that Luz Vaminda Jariwala is an agent of radical love, a sustainer of intentional community, and a conduit for collaboration. Originally from Carson, California, she now lives in the land of the Pawtucket and Massachusetts people in the neighborhood known as Jamaica Plain in Boston. How are you, Minda? Welcome. Luz Vaminda, can I have you check in?
Hi, everyone. My name is Luzvi Minda Jariwala. I also go by Minda in other contexts. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers. Visual description, I'm a middle-aged Filipina with long black hair and wearing a navy blue disco t-shirt. My access check-in is that I'm feeling good in my body today. I got to do some stretching and some yoga. My mic is functioning properly. My internet is strong, and so feeling pretty good. I'm one of the recently converted to Star Trek. I just got introduced to Star Trek Discovery in January of 2021 because of Trek Table. I have not looked back. I'm here for it.
Awesome. Welcome. And we're so glad you never looked back. Thank you so much. All right. So to introduce our final new member to the table, I'm super excited to introduce Rose Portillo. She is a renowned theater artist, actor, writer, director, collaborator, and educator. Rose is a 40-year plus veterana of stage and screen, large and small, a community builder and art maker of altars and mosaics, aka Rosaics. She is an innovator, initiator, intuit, and a maverick dedicated to breaking new ground and smashing stereotypes. What's up, Rose? I'm so excited you're here. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the panel assembled.
Okay, I watched Star Trek before anybody else that's a part of this table. I'm that old. I have white and silver hair to prove it. I am in a predominantly red room with a purple curtain. There's another red one over there. Let's see. I'm nervous about being here, but that's okay. I have birds and dogs, so and a husband with a walker, so I might have to get up for a moment to fix something, and then I'll be right back. I am new to Discovery, and because of Dela, I am in love with Discovery. So I am new, but in love. That's really great. What else? I think that's the main stuff.
That's it. Do you identify as like a Trekkie? Is that part of your identity?
Well, that's what we used to be, that we were called Trekkies, and I definitely will, the title has come back. It is refreshed.
I love it. Welcome so much, Rose. We're so glad you're here, and we honor that you just jumped in, so we're going to keep that in mind as we think about spoilers, too. Thank you. Welcome. I will go last. Hello, everybody. I am Dela. My pronouns are she, he, and theyla. That's an interesting one. She and Dela, and they. I'm just excited today. It's a fun day. So, my visual description is my hair is doing structural amazing things, and I have black hair that's faded into differing shades of blues. So it looks like a wave piled up on my head right now. So I'm super excited about that. Also, I am a Trek head with a love of minutia. I come into this with some canon knowledge. I realize I'm jumping ahead. I am also, my access check-in is I'm good. It's just a little warm in the room I'm in, which is why I'm a little flustered. But the last thing I want to say is I am poly in my sci-fi loving. And last week I came out as Star Trek Disco Monogs. So I spent a lot of time with this show, and I love it. I'm so happy to introduce it to so many people because it's a good Star Trek show. It's a good show. So I'm super excited, and that's my check-in. All right, so final business before we jump into these discussions. We like to arrive. Nods to Ofelia Esparza and Rosana Esparza for teaching me about arrival procedures and protocols. But we want to do this last round of Trek Table agreements so that we make sure that when we talk with each other, we can have a conversation. So we want to say welcome. Welcome to all who enter. Whether you're a newbie or raised in a Star Trekking family, welcome. Let's build this space together.
Whether you use Trek Table as your nerdy exploration or as part of your self-care ritual, Trek Table is a weekly space to put down the world for a second and come into Trek space.
This is a space for Black, Brown, Indigenous women of color to be a fan, a geek, a nerd, and explore the vastness of the Star Trek multiverse.
Yes, Trek Table is also a place for allies to come, engage, and explore as well. This is an opportunity for allies to hold space and focus on insights, perspectives, and experiences that we or you may not be familiar with.
Now that we're all here, we remind you that we seek to build an environment of mutual respect and listening. We understand that we'll disagree, and that's part of the fun, but there is enough hate going on in the world. We don't need it here. Keep those phasers on stun.
Yes. All right, so let's go ahead and take a breath and breathe in those agreements. Go ahead, breathe in. And exhale. Wonderful. All right, here we go. Let's jump into this Star Trek talk. We're going to go with Trek Table. Question number 1, posed to the Trek Table assembled and those in the chat. What do you prefer as an energy source for Starfleet? Antimatter, dark matter, dilithium, or spores?
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
great. And we are back, and that was Hollenbeck Ganso by the band Quetzal, our theme music for Trek Table Questions. All right, since Claudia is away this week and hanging out, I'm here with our Trek Table question number 1 to the table assembled, and those of you in the chat. If you're listening on the archive, feel free to add that to your chat or go ahead and Instagram or tweet at us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you prefer as an energy source for Starfleet? Antimatter, dark matter, dilithium, or spores? Maya Mama, I'm going to come to you first. I have an answer, but I should ask the question first to other people. Maya Mama, what say you?
So I say that it depends on where I'm going, because sometimes, a road trip is a really good time. And sometimes the fun is in the journey. But for the most part, I'd say spores. I don't like traffic, and I just want to get to where I'm going.
Okay. Luz Viminda, what says you?
There's always some environmental or ethical issues with a lot of energy, especially energy that's extracted from the land. So that's dilithium reminds me of coal, because they have to mine it, and there's wars and territory issues when extracting from the land. Antimatter is incredibly inefficient. It takes a lot of energy to make antimatter, and so there's a lot of waste. Spores, it requires some type of living interface to use it. So you have to use tardigrades or humans, and so to scale, you've got to take people voluntarily or involuntary to make it to navigate. So that there's some ethical issues with this, and it requires some genetic manipulation to make it work. I like to go with the answer that seems most like space magic, because we don't know very much about it, and it's dark matter. Dark matter is supposed to be 95% of the universe is made of dark matter, and the universe is constantly expanding. So there's always going to be a supply of dark matter in that space magic universe where we actually know how to, use it.
Okay, Luz Viminda coming with all the thoughtful, break it down of what the question is. I love it. Thank you for that. And I'm gonna say, before I give you the floor, Rose, I was just gonna choose dark matter because I don't know that I even had the most. I mean, I know I posed the question, but I just was like, I think it's dark matter, because I agree on the sports thing and the live energy source, live driver. Rose, what say you, new to the Star Trek Discovery universe?
I say we do not know enough about dark matter. We just do not know enough. And so it terrifies me. And the spores, they're a little water, I don't know. It's a living thing that, of course, everything is going to be problematic. But I am fascinated by the spores. I am fascinated. So I'm going with the spores.
Awesome. It looks like we have, thank you. The table is in lots of different places. So is our chat. People are putting up George Wardell and dilithium. Claudia loves the question, prefers whatever the Traveler used in Star Trek Next Generation. The rest have environmental impacts, like Brenda talked about. Thisly Gaia, what's up, Thisly Gaia? Dark matter is your vote. Jeannie Goodman, thank you for joining us. Spores seem the most sustainable. So we're continuing to ask folks to tell us in the chat what you think. But for right now, that was Trek Table question number 1. Great job, everybody. Yes.
Trek Table is proud to be a part of the digital theater platform at Outside In Theater. Like and subscribe the Outside In YouTube channel for our weekly live digital recordings. Listening on the podcast, check out youtube.com/outsideintheater. And with this song, Matanzas by Quetzal, we know it's time for Popcorn Recap. The game is simple. We have 2.5 minutes to share the chunklets of plot from this week's episode.
Yes, in this week's episode, we will be talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 4, and Obol for Charon, or Charon, teleplay by Alan McElroy and Andrew Colville, story by Jordan Nardino, Gretchen J. Berg, and Aaron Harbitz, directed by Rose Lee.
We think it's funny because Minda is a Trek newbie and has never done popcorn recap before. Dela loves minutia, and I come from a generational Trek family. Can we get it done? I say yes.
Awesome. I believe us. All right, here we go. Brandon, please set 2.5 minutes on the timer. Can we get it done? Here we go.
Incoming transmission.
So number 1 from the USS Enterprise arrives on the transporter pad to tell Captain Pike about the Enterprise, which is still in space dock, but is also there to tell Pike about some intel on Spock's shuttle coordinates, and also to have a cheeseburger from the food dispenser. Extra habanero sauce, please.
Stamets and Tilly are in the spore lab discussing the blob May trapped in the spore cube. Tilly confesses about her connection to the real May, and suddenly the blob reaches out.
Meanwhile, Burnham is leading a Red Angel briefing in the ready room, and we get to see the bridge crew kind of at the breakfast table talking about it. Poor Saru's feeling sick. Linus is acknowledging he has 6 naval cavities, all the things, and like Batman, Commander Non is all stealthy in the back. The captain enters, sends everybody to stations, and Pike huddles with Burnham about what's going on with Spock.
So then Discovery is pulled out of warp by a giant sphere that is vibrating. It's sending a signal, and then the bridge crew gets all Tower of Babel, and they ask for Saru to help because he speaks 94 languages. And then we discover that the virus in the translator might be spreading across the ship's systems. Then, energy blast.
Enter Gearhead Commander Jet Reno. She comes to the spore lab to do some power relay crossovers and meets Tilly, the super cadet, and Stamets, the fungi farmer. The energy blast gets the 3 of them locked up in the spore lab, and they have to collaborate to save each other. But then May gets loose from the spore cube and wraps a blobby cuff around Tilly.
Meanwhile, Burnham's trying to take Saru to the sick bay. Pike comes along to help. And while Saru's getting checked out at sick bay, Dr. Pollard's trying to learn about Kelpians, and Burnham and Pike are holding gauze pads over somebody who's bleeding. Saru figures out digital antibodies. Oh my gosh, so much time! Oh my gosh!
So Saru and Burnham have a heart-to-heart about while they're building the digital antibodies, and then that work slowly like ants on water buffalo. Saru acknowledges that he has some shame about his alienness. Then he tells Burnham about his refugee experience at Starbase 7, and then he asks Burnham to get all of his logs together so that future Kelpians can learn about who he is.
Burnham goes back to the bridge where Owosekun says they can't keep a lock on Spock's shuttle, they need more power. Burnham heads to engineering and sees the blobby May as a forearm cuff on Tilly. Stamets figures he can make Tilly into a Ouija board, while Burnham figures out that Disco is the Ouija board for the sphere.
I like your Maya Chinchilla technique of reading through the timer. Thank you for that. We got, obviously the minutia head wrote some notes for folks. We did a good job though. We're almost there. All right. So one plot point. I know a lot of other things happen at the end of this, towards the end of this episode. We each get one more plot chunklet to try to help people who haven't seen this episode yet know what happens. We just ended with the Tilly as Ouija board. So I will say that the sphere is 100,000 years old. It is there to pass on what it knows, and it ultimately, because of a Saru Burnham Discovery collab, it is able to share the data and safely push Discovery away from a blast. Maya Mama, can I ask you to share another piece of chunklet of plot?
Yes, and Saru has been on his deathbed. He's ready to peace out on everybody, but then his ganglia turns to metal or knives or whatever, and even though Michael was going to help him die, he lives, and he has lots of power, and he's super excited.
May, using the Ouija board...
and lose them in the final chunklet.
May, using the Ouija board of Tilly, speaks through Tilly and says that... speaks through Tilly and and as a result, Stamets tries to close the portal to the mycelial network for good. But Tilly ends up in a cocoon that Maeve wraps around her and gets stuck, and that's where we end.
Yes. All right. So, popcorn recap is a new thing every time. What a fun way for us to figure this out. Now, we didn't get through all those plot points. We're going to keep fleshing it out in the episode here on the Trek Table. But if you would like an act-by-act breakdown with some specific details and some awesome insight, we invite you to read that recap at Women at Warp. Great job to Sue. Glad to say that we are in community with you after that podcast festival last week. We're going to drop the link in the chats. Great job, Table. We did a good effort. And we'll drop the link in the notes in the episode chat. Luz Minna, can I have us?
If you're having a good time, let's keep the dialogue going. We invite you to like and subscribe to Trek Table on Instagram at Trek Table and on Twitter at Trek Table 1. Join our conversations at hashtag Trek Table, hashtag BIWOC Trek, and hashtag Star Trek Discovery.
Marie has questions.
What does this mean?
Marie has questions.
What's happening? She did what? She's from where? She killed who?
Yes. Welcome back to Trek Table with our segment Marie Has Questions, the Rose Portillo edition. We want to model here on the Trek Table that it is okay to ask questions, especially for a Star Trek Discovery newbie like Rose, especially with a topic as big as Star Trek. So we have assembled Maya Mama and myself to be some friends and experts and theorists of our own to let you ask us questions. You'll have 2 minutes, Rose, to ask us as many questions as you can, while Maya Mama and I try to answer them for you. All right.
Okay.
Brandon, can we have 2 minutes on the timer? Rose, let's just wait till the timer.
Incoming transmission.
And being an old school Trekkie, I need to know when, what's the time frame? What's the timeline for Enterprise and to Discovery? Anybody? Can you help me connect the dots?
Oh, with Kirk.
Enterprise to Discovery?
So this takes place like
how many
only
millennial
like
have
maybe 5 to 10 years
10,
before
right?
10 years before the original Star Trek, the original series.
like human years?
Yes.
Yes.
10 Earth years before.
Oh, I'm
that.
impressed. Okay. Spores. When was the discovery of the spores and their energy source? When did they become like solar panels?
I can start there. Last season, we discover when we first meet the Discovery and Paul Stamets, he tells us about his research. And Luz Minna mentioned a tardigrade earlier as a source. Originally, there was a tardigrade involved in the driving of the ship, what Stamets does now as a navigator of the ship, but it was a tardigrade and now it's a Stamets. So this happened I guess last year, in 6 months ago.
I'm just going to say, and that just gave me so many more questions that I'm not going to ask during the show. Why navy blue? Why did they lose the colors? Why is everybody
they actually
dressed
didn't
the same?
have the colors before. If you go back to Star Trek Enterprise, they were also Star Trek Enterprise that took place before Discovery. They were also wearing their blue uniforms. I believe that the new colors are just part of a retooling for Starfleet. Essentially, everyone got new uniforms.
Oh.
So they all used to wear blue and like gold or silver, but now they don't.
Before I met them?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh my God.
Well, they were more military based. Starfleet was more military based and less diplomatic. So this is all post-war kind of behavior.
And
Post World War III.
yes.
Yes.
Post Klingon War.
Amazing. And I know we have more questions. I want to
Yes.
acknowledge that our timer ran out.
Yes.
Yes, so I want to say thank you and go for Rose.
Am I forgetting to do something?
Rose, you want to? Yeah, can
What
I
am I-
invite you to take us out of this segment?
Oh, yes, sorry. I forgot I'm supposed to say thank you. Thank you. That was Marie Has Questions in the Rose Portillo edition here on the Trek Table. Vamping.
Welcome to Discovery Design. Let's dish on the design elements that gave us all the drama this episode. So I've got some topics here, and I'm just going to read them off, and then anybody who wants to respond can just go ahead and do that. So the first thing I want to talk about are the food dispensers. The food dispensers are not replicators. They use a Gupta or Una glucose matrices, which is the structural pattern used by food synthesizers in the 23rd century. Does anybody have any opinions on that you can just go up and order a cheeseburger and fries and no Coke?
I was like, how are you not gonna order a beverage? Like, more than the replicator or synthesizer. I mean, I feel like this is a fun spoiler zone combo too. I don't think they have the Una matrices yet.
But
Does
she was
everything have to
very
be
clear.
That's
She
my
was
answer.
very clear about having a milkshake.
You're right.
right.
She
Yes,
did
that's
say
her
something
beverage.
about the milkshake.
We think of it as dessert, but it was her beverage.
But it wasn't on the tray.
Yeah, it was not on the tray.
She did
Right,
talk
she was-
about it, but it wasn't on the tray. But yes, you are absolutely right. Now let's move on to number one's uniform, the beautiful gold first officer's uniform that she is wearing with pants, yellow and with pants, because number one didn't ever wear a mini. Anybody have any things?
One thing that I
Color.
noticed about I love the mustard yellow color on her. One thing that I recognized on her is her little badge, her little insignia thing. It doesn't have those little tiny pins that say like what rank you are, like the little stars on that show the rank. And then another thing that I noticed is the braids on her shoulders. And it just turned me on to the fact that women have these like 4 braids on their shoulders, or these like stripes, and then the men have 5. And I was like, oh, so what do the gender non-binary people wear? Is it 4, 5, or a different number? So yeah, consistently on the Enterprise uniforms as well as on the Discovery uniforms, the male characters have 5 stripes and the women have 4.
That's so interesting. I don't think I ever noticed that.
I didn't.
Look at you. Seeing all
Wait,
this
can I ask
stuff.
a question? Rose, were you gonna jump it?
No, I was just going to say
Sorry,
I hadn't.
was Rose gonna
I
jump
didn't
in?
make that observation either. That's quite an observation.
But I mean,
So-
on the gold uniforms.
I loved it. It was lovely to have some color. Yes.
I think it makes it more Star Trek-y. Now, the language translators and all of the malfunctions that come into place when we're on a starship, because it's very multicultural. Any thoughts on? Do you think more people should maybe learn some languages like Saru?
That would be amazing. One thing that I was wondering is, could they turn off the language translator when it's not working and then just talk to each other? Because I would assume that if they're all from Earth, then they probably know standard Earth English, and that they could just understand each other if they just go low tech.
Well, there's people like Linus, who's a Saurian, and he doesn't speak English. Like, his voice doesn't make English sounds. And I don't think Saru's voice makes English sounds either.
Yeah, I would jump in and just say, I really like that the the first time we meet Linus, the Saurian, he's in the elevator in episode 1 with Connolly, and he's speaking in clicks. And so this is really the first episode where we get to hear him talk. And I think it was interesting that they used that moment to then also bridge the Tower of Babel stuff that we were seeing or hearing in the bridge and kind of happening throughout. So I do think, yeah, I would say we should learn. It inspires me to learn another language.
Oh, good. Okay, now the sphere pre-explosion. Do you think that it had passengers and people on it at one time, or it was just like a living thing, like a satellite absorbing information, like a V'ger type of thing? What do you think?
I think we assume that it's a singular being because it's just like one thing, but maybe it's like the Joseph, which we'll probably talk about later. What if it's a being of beings that are all just interconnected and living all together? So maybe they are passengers, maybe they are multiple and one at the same time, because you see all this movement. It looked like fiery worms or snakes all like traveling across this thing, or maybe that's just the parts, multiple parts of it. Maybe they're multiple beings all living there, all integrated and enmeshed, one and many all at the same time,
like a collective of some sort.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was me being silly. Spoiler. Okay, what about illnesses? So, do you think that they ever have to worry about wearing masks and the different types of illnesses that are like non-Terran, non-terrestrial?
I think they're worried all the time, actually. I think they have sort of gone beyond the mask situation, but I bet you they're going to deal with a mask situation. Yeah.
I like that.
That's really interesting because you have all of these species with their own different immune systems and their different diseases that they might bring. They must have some like super vaccines developed, knowing all of these different factors and shooting everyone up to keep them safe so that they can live and work together.
Yeah, it's the this, right, and then the internal. What like Saru, he's got his own thing going on that isn't contracted, and then you've got Tilly, who's oh shit, that's some contraction going on.
Indeed.
I like that. Yeah, that's very good. Well, that's all the time we have for, and that was Discovery Design.
Yes, and as we head into this musical break, we're gonna get into Trek Table question number 2. What do you think that the Josep or Maze species look like when they're in the mycelial? What's your guess?
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
Awesome, and we are back with Trek Table question number 2 after hearing Hollenbeck Gonzo by the band Quetzal. What do you think the Josep species looks like? Maya Mama, I'm going to start with you, and because of where we are on time, I'm going to ask people to give me 1 or 2 sentences only in your description, all right? Here we go. Maya Mama, what say you?
I think that they look like Toad from Super Mario Brothers, but maybe smaller.
Amazing. Rose, what say you? What do you think the Josep look like?
I always wonder what anybody looks like to anybody else on Star Trek, actually. How is everything kind of adjusting? So I'm very open as to what they will come to look like.
So do you mean like a universal translator, but for like our site?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Thank you. Luz Vermindo, what say you?
I'm in love with the Josep mainly because I think they the way they look and how they manifest depends on the context and who's looking at them and what is needed. And so what I love about them, they're kind of like this embodiment of what Adrienne Marie Brown talks about in her book Emergent Strategy. They're adaptive and they have a relational way of being, and they could, you know, separate and form and be what they need to be depending on the context. So I think they look as they need to look in the moment for what is needed.
Amazing. In the chat, Claudia is saying they look like sparkles, and Jean says they look like light. So I'm fascinated by that. I want to imagine the Joseph as not the gray blobby things that we see in the spore cube, but like, yeah, sparkly light blobby things. So I think because May is in our world, she is not allowed to be her full vibrancy, but she took this blobby form. So I feel like she kind of feels like an amazing alien that I want to understand how they take up space and time all at the same time. So that's how I would answer. And that was Trek Table question number 2.
If you're enjoying this Trek Space, we invite you to like and subscribe to Trek Table for all the latest videos, highlights, and more.
And now is the point in our show when we dance break. But since Maya's not here today, we will try our thematics dance break.
Shift and move and surge, we feel all and manifest. Slide from uncertainty and lunge into intensity.
All right, welcome to Thematics here on the Trek Table, where we braid it all together and explore deep dives into the themes, insights, and reflections for this week's episode. I appreciate a little bit of a dance break there to kind of give ourselves some self-care. This episode was really profound and intense in terms of thematically what we're digging into, and I know that we are thinking about found family a lot on this show, and this episode, and Obol for Charon really feels like an amazing episode to think about death and preparing for death. And you know, the sphere is there not for first contact but last. We have all of this beautiful, amazing journey with Saru and his arc, preparing for Baharai and what that means to be cold. And then I guess also that last moment of Stamets talking with Tilly and getting her to sing the Bowie song right before he has to drill in her head. And it just kind of felt like, just in case she dies, right? Like, how do you calm someone so that you could do something that could hurt them or kill them? And just like the love that was there. So I want to invite us to kind of think about the way in which we're thinking about death in this episode. And maybe the Tilly thing is not death for some folks, which is cool. But the last thing I want to say is I was really struck by how Saru had all this shame about submitting and submitting to death and giving over. And he has that really beautiful speech to Burnham about how can I stare my friend in the face who has fought so hard every day for her breath? How can I tell you who has fought so hard that I am submitting to death and letting it come? So just curious about what we're thinking in terms of cultural moments, connections, and Saru preparing for death. Maya Mama, can I invite you to go first?
Well, I think so much of it is about connection and love and also respect. I think Michael shows so much respect for Saru's beliefs, for who he is. Also, another thing that he mentions in that conversation, or that she mentions in that conversation, is that there is no judgment. Like, you can talk to me about everything, and that's I just think that means so much. That she is there to hear what he has to say, for his final, what he thinks are his final moments. I just think that it's really powerful, and it's very beautiful. And even though you kind of know what's going to happen at the end, you still get weepy. I did both times.
Oh.
Most definitely. Luz Verminda, let me jump to you. Thoughts on this episode and cultural approaches to death and Saru found family?
I totally love Saru, this process that Saru chose. I love the intentionality of him saying goodbye, of him saying it's my time, and him choosing who he wants at his to be there at his last breath, and where he wants to have that last breath, and and laying himself on his own bed in his own room, in among the things that bring him the most joy and comfort, with the flower that from his home, all of these things, and really kind of directing this transition process, right? And so I think we in our culture, we have this glorification of fighting against something that's inevitable, and then we put ourselves in bright rooms with like a lot of people cutting us open and lots of talk and beeps beeps beeps. But Saru chose this quiet, sacred space to lay himself and give himself to this natural process, and to say goodbye and I love you to a friend that he wanted in that space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rose, your thoughts on this topic?
For sure. I think the honoring of culture and the respect given to his choice, and to take on the burden of being the last one and making that act, committing to making the act, and the very important statement of, yes, I could linger. She said, please, you don't know what we might discover. And he said, but I will be in pain. I will be in excruciating pain. Please release me from that. And, those are really intense moments that you can, that's deep friendship, deep chosen family. And also just a blatant statement to the argument that continues in this country and among people of different faith, and the lingering and the pain and the we must try everything. And it's like, well, you might want to ask the person who's actually having to live through it. So.
Thank you so much. Table Assembled, really powerful insight. Claudia in the chat is saying this reminded me of Worf wanting to die with honor in the Star Trek Next Generation episode. No, STG? Next Gen, right? The other thing we're gonna, from the chat, just to add a little humor, Brandon asks, but why does his shirt have to be off?
Because he's trying to be comfy.
Because it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous chest. Man,
his beauty.
Those designers need to be honored.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right. So we're going to keep going. Here's kind of a quick burst question, topic number 2, as we move through time. This episode, as I said, was so much about found family, right? Like we have Burnham and Saru, kind of Burnham almost as the death doula for Saru, right? Really appreciating how you all were kind of holding that up. We get Reno and Stamets and Tilly in their first appearance as like the queer science family. And then you even get Captain Pike in number 1, like having a moment about Spock and like their connection to him as found family. And then, like I said at the top of the show, the bridge crews like having morning breakfast, and Linus is talking about 6 naval cavities. So we see these like found family moments, these bonds in the show. And I'm wondering, any thoughts on your favorite found family in this episode? Luz Verminda, I'm going to start with you.
Burnham and Saru, the deathbed scene. At that moment, in this time of like utmost like vulnerability, exposure, with the shirt off and everything, he's recounting his life and his shortcomings, his perceived failures, and talking about his achievements and thinking of what it all meant. His soul was fully exposed, and he opened and he allowed Michael Burnham in. Doing something like that, there's no other like stronger way to say to say you're my family, to allow someone in that type of sacred space, that
Yeah.
and exposing your soul. That it was super powerful. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Rose, what say you? What do you think about found family?
So
this week?
absolutely that. Pike and Michael. When she goes, you got to trust me on this. I can't go be part of the search for my brother. And he goes, trust has nothing to do with it. I trust you implicitly, but your feelings eclipse the mission at hand. So it's like you have to trust me that I know you well enough that we're going to do this thing together. And yet he's listening, and he's going to try and honor her request. And then at the end, where he's finally come to a point where he can honor her request, she's like, yeah, never mind. I just realized that we're in it together. I just realized that. Just fabulous. And then my other moment is the beginning of family with Reno and Stamens. Just that, and they're from different worlds and different approaches, and they have witnessed each other in moments be their best selves, and they are becoming family, and those are always delicious moments to watch.
Yes. Maya Mama, what say you?
Well, I really love, that's actually my favorite quote in this episode is, my abiding trust in you doesn't eclipse the mission at hand. It has so much kindness in it. But my favorite group is the Bridge Crew, because I love me some salty tea at the work table.
Yes.
We all like that.
Yes. And I want to say, I want to give shouts out to Ebony Adams, aka Ebony Astor, on Feminist Frequency Radio, and her Michael Burnham hair reports. This episode, I definitely had a Joanne Owosakun hair moment of just loving her hair this episode, and getting to witness her and Detmer and Reese and all them sit at the table in the ready room and just have this, like, Burnham's trying to do a briefing, but they're just kind of being fam with each other, and they've lived through stuff. So I feel like I just love this show because of all the family. Yes, Burnham and Saru. I'm gonna break my own rule. I do this all the time, but I just really, I do also love the formula. Yeah, I just love all the family. I'm just gonna say all of them. The chat is super excited. Puget Zulu is responding to Claudia, remembering the Worf episode, thinking about when he injured his spine. Jean is saying this episode really speaks to the error of suicide. You don't know what could be fixed in the future. So lots of different perspectives about what's happening in this episode, which we totally appreciate. Table, I have one more topic, but we are short on time, so I'm going to ask you to think about how you want to answer this. But this last topic is, this is also an episode about communication and passing on culture and legacy. We have not a first contact, but last contact with the sphere. We have Saru saying to Burnham, will you make sure all of my Starfleet logs are in order so that once Kelpians are post-warp, other Kelpians can learn of me, someone like them who's already been here. And then you literally have May doing everything she can to try to get Tilly's attention so she can save her world. I'm just wondering, like, as you think about this, closing thought and thematics about the way in which communication and our stories are communicated in this episode. Maya Mama, I'm gonna start with you. Thoughts?
Well, I just think of the question of who are we if no one remembers us? But then it also makes me think of a lot of the lost Indigenous culture and language and art that has been destroyed, and that no one remembers, and that no one can hold on to anymore. And it just, I think about it, it resonates with me.
Yes. Luz Verminda, your thoughts?
Yeah, so it just points to the real responsibility and the importance of the the storytellers, the conduits, the empaths that listen, and the listeners. So like we have several people in this episode that are serving as those conduits, like first and who are asking the question of what does this person need. Like Nan comes in and asks what does the Red Angel need, and Burnham's asking what does the Sphere need, and everyone's like thinking about the needs and stories of the other. And Tilly is serving as that conduit. Discovery is serving as that conduit for the Sphere to tell its story to the world. Saru is also speaking up for the Sphere. And so that there's this power in empathy and listening and carrying on this the needs and stories of those that need to pass on. So. Yeah.
Yes.
Power to the conduits and the empaths, the listeners, and the storytellers.
Totally. Totally.
Someone should write a song, Power to that, what you just said. Rose, do you have thoughts about this?
I would add, however, that the knee-jerk reaction is to respond with fear and feel that they are in the presence of danger. And so it takes for that, they got shields up, everything, we're prepared to just shoot. Reno did it too. And then there's a chill moment, and then they think, and it's like, oh man, what if it's trying to tell me something? What is it actually trying to say? Stop, breathe, listen with your 20 seconds, right? And I also, for me, in this episode, I wrote really big dreamers. Saru in his giving his backstory, or repeating his backstory of being a refugee, and how he morphed himself, how he assimilated, how he survived without losing himself, but still had to separate himself from his home and create a new home. And everything he said was all about dreamers. It was all about the dreamers that are being threatened right now. So I really appreciated that. And given also that dreamers are always being threatened, so I'm sure when it was written, it was happening, and I'm watching it, and it's happening now, even though it's already we're going into season 4. So, but I really. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you all are saying, and just that, all these different perspectives. This is why I love Star Trek Discovery. To quote Claudia, Discovery rewards a rewatch. And, I've seen this episode several times. We know Ariana, who's part of our show, this is like one of her favorite episodes. So I want to appreciate all of the opportunity for us to think about these things. Friends in the chat, continue to tell us what this episode invokes in you, and if you're listening on the podcast or watching in the archive, let us know somehow. We really we're only at the beginning of the season. We've got a long way to go, so we definitely want to think about this. I want to say thanks to the table, because we're at that point in the show where thematics would not be complete if we did not jump into the spoiler zone. And because Rose is a Star Trek Discovery newbie, Rose is not going to be in the spoiler zone with us. And so for folks who are also watching synchronously like Rose, go ahead and turn down your volume or mute your audio for the next 2.5 minutes, because Brandon, we are ready to go into the spoiler zone.
Incoming transmission.
Okay, go. Anybody want to start?
So I rewatched the short treks, that the one about Saru and him finding the Baul device, the communications device. The thing is that I also caught that Giorgio is using a translator to get his language. Which was pops and clicks initially, and then he started speaking
Right.
and it caught up. I thought that was really interesting, and I love the episode with Spock and Number One. It just makes me love them so much.
With that little the translator thing, so we know that Saru, he's the one that makes first contact. But how do they make that little translator device? How does she know his language, and who programmed that translator device to know, like, how to talk to him? So was first contact when the people of the planet understand that you're communicating with them, or were there people like dressed up as Kelpians among them to, like, watch them and understand them? And if that was so, and they know their language, why wouldn't they know their biology too, so that they could treat them on a ship?
Right, and I would just say that totally is a spoilers. And if you're listening to us, we're talking about Short Trek's episode "The Brightest Star," in season 1, written by Boyun Kim and Erica Lippold, directed by Douglas Aronofsky. And we're talking about Q&A, written by Michael Chabon and directed by Michael Pellington, which is the Ensign Spock and Number One. It's like Spock's first date on the Enterprise moment, with a lot of parallels to what we saw with Number One and Captain Pike, actually, in that arrival pad sequence. I guess I want to just say, like, Minda, you're also asking us to think about what's going to come in 2 episodes, which is we go to Kaminar and we learn about the Baul, and we watch Saru really struggle with this essential question of, now that I know these truths, what am I going to do? How am I going to liberate my people? Because we have been kept in the dark and told we should die at Baharai.
Yes.
We just started.
Transfer of data is complete.
Thank you, Jean, that the translator does use artificial intelligence and has been gathering languages for a very, very long time.
Yes. All right, so we want to welcome folks back who are watching us visually. Folks who are listening, welcome back on the podcast. That was Spoiler Zone, and we just want to say thank you for joining us for our thoughts on thematics for season 2, episode 4 of Star Trek Discovery, and Obol for Charon. And if you want to help us hold Trek space for women of color and our allies, we invite you to support us on patreon.com/TrekTable. And as we head into this final episode of our final question of Trek Table question number 3, I want to invite you to dream. What would you like to see Jet Reno fixed with duct tape?
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
All right, and we are back with the full Trek Table assembled, and those in the chat to ask, what would you like to see Jet Reno fixed with duct tape? Rose Portillo, I'm going to start with you.
Viruses. Get that
Love
tape
it.
in those machines and stop the viruses from getting in.
I like it.
Love it. Maya Mama, what say you?
I would like Jet Reno to use duct tape to fix all the broken hearts, because I still miss Dr. Culber.
I think I would like to see Reno fix anything with duct tape. I feel like when she threw the gauntlet, like, I just want to see. I want to see what's up. So
And
that's
gum.
my answer.
And
gum.
gum.
Oh, right, when she took the gum from Tilly and, like, put it in the thing, and then in the chat, Elizabeth Minda, I'm about to come to you, but literally in the chat, Claudia says, literally just cackled. I would need to see the hull fixed with duct tape. I need that visual. Oh, I believe Reno would fix the hull with that. Elizabeth Minda, what do you say?
I'm thinking about, my mind's on Short Treks and the Q&A thing. There's so many disasters that happen that get fixed on Discovery in just like in seconds. How come someone can't fix that elevator thing? So elevators, or whatever you call that.
Turbo lifts.
Turbo lifts. Fix that with duct tape in the
Right?
episode Short Treks Q&A.
Yeah. I love it. So yes, and those are the Trek Table questions today for Trek Table episode number 21. As we discuss a deep dive and Obol for Charon. And you were listening to the song Dreamers and Schemers by the band Quetzal, and I wanted to name that track today because Rose had mentioned Dreamers earlier in our thematics combo. I also want to acknowledge that Jean piped up in the chat and said that she wants to see them fix the sphere with duct tape. So all the things, so many fun things. All right. So we are in the part of our show where we hold space for Black, Indigenous, Brown, women of color, and we want to be able to amplify resources and highlight the work of women of color content creators, community builders, and world shapers. So we have a couple of signal boosts for today, and I actually get to go first. We just want to amplify that Reservation Dogs is about to premiere on FX on Hulu, and we're so excited because Tazba Rose Chavez is one of the writers. And that show, if you haven't heard about it, it's a breakthrough show in Indigenous representation. Every writer, director, and series regular on the show is Indigenous. In addition to shouting out the writer, we also want to shout out Deveray Jacobs, who takes on the role of Alora Dannon. So lots of amazing things. You can check out the link in our chat, but Reservation Dogs premieres on FX on Hulu on August 9th. Rose, can I have you share our next signal boost?
So excited for that. We have enjoyed her music during pre-show and throughout this episode. Trek Table just wants to amplify that singer Marta Gonzalez's book, Chicana Artivistas, Music, Community, and Transborder Tactics in East Los Angeles is now available. And links will also be in the chat and in the episode notes.
Yes, thank
we
you.
want to
My
amplify another podcast, the Intersectional Podcast. Black Witches, fanfiction, diversity and period drama, Star Trek, all these subjects and more will be discussed with actors, creators, journalists, cosplayers, and fans on Intersectional. Intersectional is a podcast focused on having introspective, intersectional discussions on speculative media. So check them out on Instagram at intersectionalpod.
Yes, and if you have a woman of color content creator that you want us to amplify, let us know in the DMs on our Trek Table Instagram or at Trek Table 1 on Twitter. And that is our signal boost for Trek Table episode number 21. Awesome. We just want to say thanks so much for everybody joining us today in this 21st episode of the Trek Table. The Trek Table can drink now legally in all 50 states here in the United States of America. So we're super proud of ourselves for that. It's been a journey, and we're so excited to explore discovery. So this is our chance for final thoughts. We always go around the table and ask folks to share theirs. Luz Vaminda, can I ask you to go first? Final thoughts on this episode.
I'm thinking about my final thought is all wrapped around Saru and his transformation and the decolonization of his mind. And as a middle-aged woman, now 46, and thinking about what's yet to come, and thinking of the midlife transitions that are yet to come, I'm thinking of, like, Saru and like how, and him, like, it's kind of like, I'm thinking, like, is what his transition like menopause? Like, you go through like this transition where you drink salty things, and your body changes, and you think like this is the end of like a part of your life. But then what happens is that you really start to come into your own power, and you sit with it and you claim it and say, yes, this is a new me, and it's a powerful new version of me, and it's awesome. And what is next? I'm excited about Saru and his journey moving forward in his woke self, and looking forward to my own transformations in the future and coming into my own power.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Maya Mama, your final thoughts on this episode.
Well, I think that people may have varying beliefs, but I think a lot of they speak a lot about the ownership and autonomy of choosing of choice of choosing the way you live or the way that you don't live, and I think that is really beautiful that they allow anybody of any species to have ownership and autonomy of themselves, which is, part of what makes the Federation the ideal.
Awesome. Thank you. I will go next so we can let our special guest close us out. But my thought this episode is just, this is why I love Star Trek Discovery. It gives us an opportunity to really see these intersections around culture and perception and communication and stories. And I really just appreciate the way Burnham and Saru get to name to each other that they are siblings, and just thinking about their arc from that first moment we see them in episode 1 of the show, of the very series, where they're like the siblings who want to nudge each other out at the science station, and how much they want Captain Georgiou to love them both. So I just think about their arc and who they are to each other, and just so glad that, even just humbled by Saru, that even as he lay ready to pass away, he is able to look at Michael and say, I don't want to do this to you because you have already experienced so much loss. And just the makes me sad. So just feeling all the feels of what it means to be in the work with somebody and to feel them as a sibling. And that's my final thought today. Guest co-host Rose Portillo, your final thoughts on this episode?
The importance of bearing witness and really holding another's love and life and friendship, and his the ability to be brutally raw and honest with each other. And as he is speaking his shame, she says, but you found yourself among the stars. So, I just think that there are always moments in these stories that say what I would like to say to all of us. We, as Shakespeare said, we are made of stars. We are stardust. And that theme continues through, and the theme of transformation, and they all are going through a transformation. So there is so much beauty in these stories, and the most important thing is to listen. Share story. He says, my world expanded with every story I heard. So to continue to share our own stories. And, we are star travelers.
Amen.
Yes. And those are our final thoughts on Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 4, An Obol for Charon, here on the Trek Table.
Thank you all for joining us at the Trek Table. Get first look at the at the Trek Table questions, inside scoops, and more when you sign up for our mailing list at trektablepodcast.com.
Find Trek Table Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, and next week you can join us for Saints of Imperfection, Episode 5, Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. And we just want to invite you to like and subscribe to this channel so that you can get more Trek Table in your algorithms.
Like and subscribe to us on Instagram or Facebook at Trek Table and on Twitter at TrekTable1. Join our convos there and please comment using hashtags #TrekTable, #BIWOCTrek, and Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, and I just want to say thank you and share gratitude for all the things. They're so excited today. We just want to share gratitude and say thank you to the Trek Table assembled for this episode 21. Thank you to Maya Mills-Lowe. Thank you to Luz Viminda Jariwala. And thank you to Rose Portillo. We're so glad that you were all here. Thank you for sharing all your insights and thoughts with us today. When we gathered earlier, we were holding Trek space for folks like Burnham trying to support their found family right now as the unexpected is thrown at us. Storytellers and those that keep our stories, all those realizing their power and claiming it for ourselves and their people, and for those figuring out how one is going to leave the space they are in. In the chat, folks also let us know they were holding Trek space for those looking back with fondness while they continue moving forward. We here at the Trek Table just want to say thank you on behalf of myself and our other executive producer, Luz Viminda Jariwala. We just want to say thanks to our production team, production coordinator Brandon Chang, artist coordinator Terry Hashimoto, social media manager Isio Borlasa, and stage manager Ariana Michelle.
Deep gratitude and thanks to Outside In Theater, with extra thanks to Arlo, Alex, Danny, and Tamlin.
Yes, we want to say thank you so much to Visual Communication. Thanks, Abe and Francis, and all of our friends across the Star Trek multiverse.
Trek Table is a service mark of De La Projects, LLC.
Yes, we want to say thanks everybody for joining us for this special episode 21 of the Trek Table. We're going to close out this ritual for today, so I'm going to invite folks to ground yourself one last time. Take that breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. We hope that you will join us next Sunday, August 1st, when we dive into Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 5, Saints of Imperfection, available now on Paramount+. And we'll meet you back here at the Outside In Theater YouTube channel at 4 o'clock Pacific time next Sunday so we can talk about Trek. We'll be holding Trek space for you until then. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.